Are you making the biggest mistake runners make before race day? It's not your speed, it's not your total volume, your mileage, it's about your long run. I'm going to break down exactly how long your longest run should be before you race, whether you're training for a half marathon, a full marathon, or an ultra marathon. I'm going to show you why there's no one size fits all answer and how to avoid common mistakes and misconceptions and the key factors that determine the perfect long run for you. I'm Lee Grantham, a coach and a runner who's gone from a pretty average marathon time of 4 hours and 25 minutes to 2 hours 21 for the marathon and 6 hours and 42 for the 100k by focusing on smart, specific long runs. I help runners from beginners to experienced athletes to remove limiting beliefs by optimizing their training so that every single run makes sense and moves them towards their goal. So if you feel that you're capable of way much more with your running, get in touch and just book a call in the description. Now, the first thing to realize when you're talking about how long should my long run be in general, but how long should it be before I race my marathon or my ultra marathon or my half marathon, is that even the best coaches and athletes in the world go to a different distance depending on how specific the run is and also how many of them there are in the training schedule. So what works for one athlete might not work for you. If you look at Alberto Salazar or Renato Canova, then they like to do an over distance long run, but a lot of that long run will be specific towards the marathon pace or what the athlete is training to do. If you look at the Hanson's method, Keith and Kevin Hanson, they always opted for a shorter long run of up to 15, 16 miles, 25, 26 kilometers. And there's a lot you can do in that if it gets very specific. And if you look at Jack Daniels, the Jack Daniels running formula, he often liked to go midway, sort of 20 to 22 miles, but a lot of that would be easy or moderate pace. So it depends on the intensity of the run. What you need to remember is that you're an individual and you're working towards a goal to run as fast as you possibly can over a set distance on one morning on one day. But you've also got to consider your start point. If you've got 8 weeks to build towards a marathon and the current furthest you've ran within the last 4 weeks has been 10k, then that's going to be a long journey or quick journey to try to get up to distance. Is it then safe to try and on the way hit an intermediate target of 20 to 22 miles? Probably not. Does that add some uncertainty to race day? Possibly, yeah. I was talking to an athlete just a couple of days ago and he's working towards a half marathon and he's a little bit worried that 6 to 8 weeks before the date of the race, he's only done 15, 16 kilometers, but he's been out there for 90 minutes. He's been out there for an hour and a half and his goal is to run the half marathon in 1 hour 40. So he's almost there in terms of time on the feet. Right now, I can tell you that if you're comfortable at running 90 minutes, whether that was 15k or 16k, it's likely that given all that race day energy plus the taper, you feeling fresh and excited, you're going to be able to run for 100 minutes for 1 hour 40. What always works for me is working with 90 to 100 minutes of long run, so relatively short, but having chunks of that at specific marathon pace or marathon pace plus or 10%. So it's all relative to the way that I want to move over the ground in race day. What that typically looks like is, for example, a 25k long run, but easy for the first 20 minutes and then into segments at marathon pace and then easy at the end. And what you're doing there is, yes, you're building your aerobic base, so you're nicely working in zone 2, and that's great for you. You're also out there for a big chunk of time, but you're working specifically to the marathon pace or the race pace that you're trying to hold for a specific segment. So you get to feel within a long run how that actually feels, so there's no surprises on race day. So you've got the element of specificity versus long, slow distance. Long, slow runs are going to build your aerobic base, but if you're always running easy, you're not preparing for the intensity of race day. You're not preparing for that specific pace. So adding race pace efforts into your long run makes your training more specific and helps you to dial in that pacing and race day efficiency. A big mistake I see with runners is they just go for the distance and they'll run long, slow distance for 2.5 hours, even over distance, but none of that is specifically at race pace. Now, as I said at the start, it's not one size fits all. So it's not, okay, this is your perfect long run for a marathon, 22 miles, which is often stated. What works for one person might not work for you. And even in my time as a distance runner, at certain points, short long runs of 25k towards a marathon and even 100k, but many of those have worked better than just going out there for 40k, 45k, 50k and feeling like, great, I'm getting long, slow distance runs in, but you're not having the specificity of the short long run where you're really building that specific race pace. It may be for you that you're super strong and you absolutely love going out doing long, slow distance, in which case do that. Do whatever makes you happy. And then from time to time, try and do some shorter 15k to 20k specific tempo efforts at the race pace that you're aiming for. It might be that your body gets broken up if you go super long, and therefore you need to keep it short and sweet and race specific, and that's good as well. I've known elite athletes that have been running between 206 and 210 that have worked in both ways, and both ways have worked for them. Another big factor here to consider, and you've got to implement this at least in your long runs, ideally in your interval sessions as well, is your nutrition. Get your nutrition dialed in, and if you've got that working for you, and I'm at 80 grams of carbohydrate per hour, and that's strategic, it's monitored every 20 minutes, then I know that I'm not going to hit the wall. And I know that there are no surprises on race day because I've already practiced it going long with this specific nutrition plan, and I've already practiced going fast in the intervals, faster than I'm going to be running in the race with the same nutrition. So I'll know that my stomach, I'm confident that my stomach is not only able to handle it, getting it in, but it's also able to get it to use as energy. So like the volume of the week, don't just focus on miles or distance. Focus on the purpose of the run. What is the purpose of this run? How is it specifically going to move me forward towards the goal? I hope you got something from that. And if you did get something from it, let me know in the comments below. Are you the animal that likes to go long, or do you like to stay short and specific?